can't believe that video hit 60K views. Like, that was crazy. Like I
didn't even realize that.
I didn't realize it either, dude. I just put it up, and then I get off TikTok, and then you
what
guys
was
like,
it? I didn't watch it.
It was
Hutchinson running over a guy, and then Georgia TikTok found it and was like, "Yeah, what did you do with Natty? What did you?" It's incredible. Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. Max Chadwick alongside Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons. Another scouting report for you guys. Derek Stingley Jr., the LSU cornerback. Going over him, his strengths, weaknesses, player comp, ranking, team fit, so much more. Before we start the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, be sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boomer Bust Draft. We're on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Check out the merch store below. Comment below, too, what you guys want to see us do next. We put a poll up on YouTube today asking what kind of videos you guys want to see, like more mock drafts, maybe an updated big board that we are working on and hopefully getting that out soon. Maybe some interviews that we did last year. We haven't really done that this year, but if you want to see more of those. And, of course, scouting reports. Like, what players do you want to see? Derek Stingley Jr. is a guy that we had to get done, one of the top prospects in this draft. So let's go over him. His background, he's a junior, 6'1", 195 pounds. Former 5-star recruit, number 3 overall, number 1 corner in the class of 2019 coming out of Louisiana. In 3 games this year, he had 3.5 tackles for loss and a forced fumble. And in his career, he had 6 interceptions, 20 pass breakups, 7 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. So, Nick, when you watch this guy, what do you like the most?
Well, it's, the same things we talked about during the summer. This is some of the best press man tape we've seen from any corner in the past 15, 20 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable stuff. As a freshman, he was on a LSU defense that was, fine. It had some good talent, the guys who got drafted. Nobody else really from that defense, off the top of my head, has been excellent in the NFL. Christian Fulton's been fine. Clavon Chason hasn't really worked out. He was the player on that defense, and he was the most dominant corner in the SEC in the country that year by far. And 2 years later now, the defense has kind of struggled a little bit the past couple of years, and he still has played fine. He's had some injuries, but he's kind of slipped on people's boards because of that. But none of the things that you saw year one have not shown up in these past 2 years. And I think particularly looking back this year, he hadn't played a whole lot. I looked at the UCLA game, went in depth there. Didn't really get the ball thrown at him. He's just kind of locking down guys. It's Derek Stingley Island, It's a combination of physicality. It's a combination of just blistering speed. There's a chance the guy runs in the 4.2s, I think. He's just a freak athlete. He's got great hands. We talked about how he was going to play receiver this year, and then he just didn't because, as it turns out, you can get hurt not just playing receiver, but playing
That was huge, by the way. That was everywhere.
And nothing happened.
Just didn't happen.
It just didn't happen.
He's winning the Heisman this year. If he's doing both, and it just nothing.
It just didn't even
Maybe the injury cut it short. Maybe he's going to do it later on. Who knows?
But quite frankly, when we talked about Hutchinson and we were like, well, there's nothing that he's bad at. There's nothing really that's bad for Stingley other than the injuries, really. He's just all around been great. He's physical in the run game. He makes all sorts of plays, anything you want from a corner. And ultimately, if he were 100% these past couple of years, we'd be talking about probably the top corner prospect we've ever seen, at least in this time of media draft focus. But let's say since Jalen Ramsey, just to make it easy. But just extremely polished at a young age, and he's been ready to be drafted in the NFL for years now. And we were talking about it 2 years ago, and now here he is.
So people talk about breakout age all the time. I mean, this is it, man. He was the best cornerback in the country as a true freshman in the SEC, which is the hardest conference in college football, which is impressive. Freak athlete, one of the most athletic cornerbacks I've ever seen. Along with this is something that Nick didn't mention, his recovery skills are unbelievable. He doesn't get burnt often, but when he does, and this is mainly against better competition, his recovery skills are so good that it doesn't really matter. I've never seen a cornerback with this good of recovery skills. Most of the time, man press corners, when they get beat, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It doesn't happen often, which is Patrick Peterson. He didn't get burned often, but when he did, it was bad. Stingley has such great recovery skills. If he does get burnt, he's going to catch up to his guy because of how athletic he is. And it's just unbelievable. I've never seen a cornerback with as good of recovery skills as he does. Great ball hawking corner as well. I mean, it's like what Nick said, there isn't really much wrong with this guy. The problem is just he doesn't really ever stay healthy. And when he does stay healthy, he's good, but not as good as he was in his freshman year. So outside of like injuries, there's nothing really completely wrong with him. And there's just no true weakness of this guy. And he has so many strengths, but it's just injuries is the main concern.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But you guys mentioned before, like he's got every single tool that you'd want in a corner. We keep mentioning Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He was on it, number 9 on Feldman's freaks list. He's 2 inches taller than the average corner. He's 6'1". He also these numbers that Bruce Feldman put in his article are absurd because he ran a 4.3 40. The average is 4.5. 42-inch vertical. The average is 36 inches. And that is the average for combine, okay? That is the combine average. The 4.3 40, the 42-inch vertical, the opening in high school. High school senior Derek Stingley was running a 4.3 freaking 40, man. That is unbelievable.
At 6'1".
At 6'1", and like I said, a 42-inch vertical. Like, this guy has unbelievable athleticism. He would have had like an elite combine and tested as like a 95th percentile athlete as a high schooler, which is just unbelievable. Because usually when you get into a college strength and conditioning program, you build that up, man. You know, a lot of Penn State players are like that, where you build up to this freak athlete. He was a freak athlete going in. Nick, you mentioned he might run in the 4.2s. I believe that because he ran a 4.3 in high school. Yeah. The ball skills, Donnie mentioned it, are incredible. Like, there was talk of him playing receiver, and good reason. Like, he really had really good ball skills. Unfortunately, we couldn't really see many of it, probably cut short to injury, but he did have 6 picks as a freshman. And you guys mentioned best corner in the country as a true freshman, absurdly good on a national championship team. This is a guy who at 18, 19 years old was being thrown on the biggest stage in college football against Trevor Lawrence, T. Higgins, all those guys at Clemson, all those guys at Alabama with Tua, Devontae Smith, and all those guys, and still performed really well as a true freshman. Terrific in man coverage, really sticky to wide receivers. And a lot of the numbers that you're like, oh, wow, so he was so good as a freshman. Like, where were the picks? Where were the pass breakups as a sophomore and as a junior? Well, injuries played a part. But also, like Nick, you mentioned this too, they just figured out, hey, let's stop throwing at this guy, man. Like, we got to avoid this guy at all costs. And so a lot of his deflated numbers were not because of him. Like, it was because the quarterbacks were just avoiding him altogether. But Donnie, what are the weaknesses that you see on Stingley's tape?
Well, I do think he's a better man-first corner than zone corner, which in today's modern NFL, zone coverage is kind of, I don't want to say cane, but it's more common than man coverage, unless you're like a team that's super blitz heavy, like maybe the Steelers or maybe the Cardinals or the Ravens, and then you use a lot of man coverage. But zone is king in today's NFL, and I'm not saying he's a bad zone corner whatsoever, absolutely not. But he's a better man press corner than he is zone corner. Also, like we've been saying for the entire videos, injuries. I don't know if he's fully healthy right now. Obviously, we'll get the medicals at the combine because thankfully we should get a combine this year. At least I would figure. So that's going to be very, very helpful for us. Outside of that, nothing really crazy. But I will say this. I think he gets burnt more often than people actually think. I'm not saying he gets burnt constantly. He gets burnt, like, for a guy that we're talking, like, I hate this word. I hate this word. You guys hate this word, generational. I don't like that word. But if we're talking... Yeah, I mean,
I use it probably too much.
The only thing I do, according to Max, is compare draft prospects to NFL Hall of Famers. So I might as well just continue doing that.
Deion Sanders comp incoming from Donnie.
Yes. Just wait till Evan Neal.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
But outside of like that, he does get burnt more often than people would imagine, considering he is a generational prospect at corner. He does get burnt a little bit more than people think. But like I said, his recovery skills are so good that people just kind of look past it, and I look past it too. So it's not a huge weakness, but outside of injuries, and I think he's a better man press corner than he is his own corner, that's kind of it.
This is not going to be a part of the weakness discussion, but I just want to say this real quick. There is a world this year where he does come in and he plays the way he did as a freshman, and he also plays receiver and catches some passes. And we legitimately are like comping this guy to Deion Sanders, and he is like by far and away the number one prospect. Like there was a world where that could happen this year, and he just got hurt again. Like it sucks, but that is the type of ceiling we're talking about with this type of player. I don't think anyone here is going to comp into that because that's ridiculous. But it's there. That possibility is there. He is just a crazy athlete. And the issue is, and we talked about the high school 40 time. I don't know what his weight was when he ran that, but if he was 175, 180, hypothetically, I mean, it depends on what type of build he is, if his legs were skinnier, but it could be harder or easier to run a 4.3 40 at that point. So he probably has added weight at LSU, and I think it's probably not enough. 195 it's big enough, obviously, to play in the NFL, but if you're getting hurt as often as he is, as physical as he can play at times, he's not as much physical as he is kind of, I hate using this word for this, but like it's kind of like the Jalen Waddle thing. Like he's a little bit reckless in like how he uses his body. Like you'll see him jumping around, like you don't slide like the way a quarterback would, but he'll go for it when he needs to, and put his body on the line. He might want to add a little bit of weight, and that could potentially tick down his 40 time. We'll see. And that's a frame thing. It's not a huge issue because at the end of the day, I really believe that although speed has been huge with corners and scouting them lately, there's this huge correlation between running in the 4.3s and success in the NFL. I think quickness is just as important, and his quickness is obviously there, and that shouldn't change with weight.
Yeah, my biggest weakness is, and this is the one you're going to hear for everyone, is just the injuries, man. Like that, he's out of a possible 22 games that he could have played the last 2 years, he's played 10. So he's missed more than half of the last 2 years with injury. He missed 10 games this year with surgery on his left foot after re-injuring it. He injured it in the summer, came back and played the first 3 games, and then got hurt again, and he was out for the entire season. Then he missed 3 games last year in 2019 with an ankle injury. And I agree with Donnie in this one too. So on the field, I don't think he's as good in zone coverage as he is in man coverage. I think he's way better at mirroring receivers rather than reading the quarterback. And here's something that I saw on tape too. He needs to play outside. Because the snaps where he played in the slot, there were some issues there. And I don't think he's a guy who can, in the NFL, can just say, hey, I'm going to follow, say, Cooper Kupp, for example. Cooper Kupp, who plays a lot of slot receiver, and he's undoubtedly the number 1 receiver for the Rams. I don't think that Derek Stingley can be the guy that just mans up on Cooper Kupp all game long, follows him outside, inside, whatever. I think he's a guy that you need on the outside against whoever is on the outside. He can man up on the number 1 if he's outside, but I don't think you want to put this guy just following the receiver if they go into the slot. Nick, you mentioned this too, not great taking on blocks. Like there's some really impressive hits on his tape, but also some bad missed tackles. And there's some times you don't think he's as physical as he should be, but he did show some improvement this year before getting hurt. And like we mentioned before, the injuries, like we're 2 years removed now from his best tape. Like 2020 was good, but it was also like, okay, he's not really being thrown at that much, which is obviously a good sign for a corner. But 2019, like he was just being locked down, forcing incompletions at a very high rate, getting interceptions, not really getting burned as much as he should as a true freshman. We're like, this guy could have been the first overall pick. So how much are you going to bank on tape from 2 years ago now with 2 straight years of being cut short due to injury? But Nick, what do you think about Stingley overall? What's the bottom line on him? Ranking, player comp, team fit. What do you think about Derek Stingley Jr.?
Well, he's one of these guys where when I go back and watch him, I move him back up my board a little bit, and it's tough with the injury thing. I know we come off a year where guys like Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell didn't play football, and then 2 years removed came into the NFL and they were great. This is a little different though. I mean, he has been in college, he has had some tape, he's been good, not great. When he has played, and it's more than 2 years. There's a bit of a difference between 2 and 3 years, I think. That being said, he's still my number 5 player on the board. I would think a lot about my 4 is Kayvon, about those two right now because Kayvon, it's a bit of a competition level thing for me. I mean, Pac-12 versus SEC, honestly. I know they're different positions, but I think there's a very real discussion here that even with all the injuries, it's Stingley still, especially in my opinion, a more valuable position. It should be a higher pick than Kayvon. He won't be, but it's a discussion, I think, or it should be. But he'll be my number 5. He'll be my number 1 corner. I don't think that's going to change for anyone. I mean, look, this has been in the making for years now. We knew this guy would be the number 1 corner. There wasn't going to be much that was going to change it. I think Ahmad Garner had an amazing performance against Alabama, and he's still probably not going to go before Stingley, barring something crazy. And so beyond that, team fits, anyone. I mean, again, I don't care that he can't follow no one receiver. If you have a guy who can play man on the outside and he's just going to sit there on the outside and man up, you can run zone on the other side of the field. You can just kind of say, hey, we're going to kind of ignore this side of the field. You're going to go to the weak side. If they put Julio over there, we're just going to have you lock him down, or we're going to play kind of a cover 2 shell where we're just playing on this 2/3 of the field, and we'll just leave that third to you. So there's a lot of value in that. So my comp was Xavier Howard. And I'm going to change it to a guy who has kind of recently jumped into that elite status this year, who should have been All-Pro today, and that is A.J. Terrell from Atlanta. And I know these guys played against each other. Oh,
not me this time, baby. Let's go.
Oh, boy. You're doing this.
I did think about it, though. That would have been unbelievable if all three of us did A.J. Terrell.
Same frame, same exact frame, 6'1", 195. I know Terrell isn't straight up a press man guy, but he plays a lot more zone than Stingley's going to play in the NFL. But the difference between Xavier Howard and A.J. Terrell to me is I think Xavier Howard is more of a vision-based read and react guy, whereas Terrell and Stingley are going to be more relying on their athleticism. And I do think that way Terrell has played this year, which is elite coverage ability, more in zone, but you see his athleticism chasing down defenders or receivers, using his ball control and ball skills, body control and ball skills to break up passes. And he was just excellent. And again, in a bad Atlanta defense this year, I think that's what you're looking for with Stingley.
Yeah. I'm just speechless, man. I don't know what to say, dude. I can't believe that was your whatever. Number 5. I mean, I'm sorry, I just can't. So he's my number 5 overall player as well. My number 1 corner by far. I hate how people are trying to say that Stingley and Gardner is a debate. It's really not. I truly believe Stingley is a much better player. He's more versatile. He can do more things. He's a better athlete. I just don't really see the argument for anyone being CB1 besides Stingley. The people ahead of him, Hutchinson at 1, number 2, Kyle Hamilton, number 3, Kevin Thibodeau, and number 4, I have Tyler Linderbaum ahead of him, which might be a hot take, but it's just the odds of Linderbaum working versus the odds of Stingley working. Probably I'm going to lean towards Linderbaum on that. That's just me because there were serious injury concerns with Stingley. And if there were no injury concerns with this guy whatsoever, he'd have an argument to be the best player in this draft.
Yep.
He would. And if he would have played wide receiver, which – once again, like I said, that was huge and it never happened. And it may have been because of those injuries. But if he would have done that and he would have played at a high level, I'm not saying he wasn't going to go be like Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. If he would just put up 1,100, 1,200 yards, we would be making these Deion Sanders comps. So, yeah, my number 5 player, my big boy, number 1 corner, my comp. I also put A.J. Terrell. So, Nick already
on the same page this year, I guess. I mean, this is the third time.
By the way, real quick, you guys had the same comp with Derek Carr. Then me and Max had it with AJ Epinesa, and now me and Nick had it with AJ Terrell.
Yep. They made the trifecta,
yeah.
Incredible. Completed it.
Nick already explained how it's a good comp, so I'll just let that sit like this.
That's fair. Stingley for me, number 4. I love how Donnie was like, oh, if you put up 1,100 or 1,200 yards, an okay. I'm like, dude, that would have been incredible. How are you going to be wide receiver 1 in this class? Stingley for me, number 4 overall, number 1 corner. Despite the injury concerns, he's still the top corner prospect, man. We can play around with it all we want. Trent McDuffie's awesome. Sauce Gardner, Kyer Elam. Anyone like that, this is the guy. We knew this was the guy, and he stayed the guy. I don't care what happened. Even if he didn't play the whole year, if he tore his ACL week 1, we'd still be listen, man, this is still the guy. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But Donnie mentioned it, and I think he is losing out a little bit because he is my number 4 overall player behind Aiden Hutchinson, and then I have Kyle Hamilton, and then I have, I believe, Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau. And then, so number 4, if this guy played, and even if he was, as good as probably last year maybe, when he was just this guy's a lockdown corner not being thrown at, he might have been my number 1 overall player. That's how good of a prospect this guy is, but the injuries do scare me enough to drop this guy to number 4, still worth a top 5 pick in my opinion. Good size, superstar athlete, amazing ball skills. For my money, second best cornerback prospect since Jalen Ramsey behind Patrick Surtain. And I think the only reason why he's not above Surtain is because of those injuries. Donnie, you know how me last year. I was all over Surtain. I loved that guy last year. And everyone's like, oh, the athleticism is the only thing. And like he lit up the combine. So I was like, all right, there's no questions now. And he's
you guys already know though, like I had JC Horn CB1.
Oh, I know. So, and so did PJ and Nick, I don't think you did, right? You have Surtain, right?
For what is this? This is behind
DB1?
Ramsey. Oh,
yeah,
DB1 last year. Last year
yeah.
I had Surtain. Yeah, I don't know. PJ
cool.
was on one. I don't know.
PJ was on one. Donnie was also on one. I love Surtain, and look, he's looked really good so far. And JC Horn, for what it's worth, before
JC Horn was good until he was hurt.
Yeah,
until he got hurt.
And it was a good cornerback class. Team fit: Jets, Giants, Texans, Falcons, Broncos, like anyone really. Like Nick said, Jets, in my opinion, need to take him at 4.
Dude,
like,
I was
Jets.
I have a friend who's a massive Jets fan, and I keep on telling him like Stingley to the Jets. Just imagine what Robert Saleh could do with Derek Stingley.
Yeah, I would.
That's just incredible.
I would love if he goes to the Jets. I know Nick passed him on at 4, but like I would probably take him at 4.
Yeah, I might have. Maybe that was a little silly. I don't know.
Listen, we were off the rails with that mock. I do not blame you. I made a number of questionable decisions in that mock.
Yeah, you didn't take Jordan Davis. That's why I was questioning.
That's true. That was my first mistake. Player comp, Donnie, you might not like this one. I'm going to go with the first guy to start the 7 movement at LSU, Patrick Peterson. And I'm not doing.
That's fine.
I'm not doing it because like the helmet scouting. You know, I hate helmet scouting. Or like, oh, every Ohio State quarterback stinks. Like that's ridiculous. I'm saying Patrick Peterson with better ball skills. Pat Pete, he doesn't look as fast now, obviously, because he's older. But he ran a 4.3 coming into that combine, man. I think that's the kind of speed that Derek Stingley has. Similar size. Pat Pete's 6'1", 203. Stingley's 6'1", 195. I think Stingley, I agree with you, Nick, has to put on a little bit of weight because he's a little skinny for that size, and the injuries have already been an issue. I know it's ankle and foot, but still put on a little bit of weight. But Pat Pete, lockdown man corner. Like that is what he was on the outside too. Not as good in the slot, but man, you just put him on the outside. You don't have to worry about anyone on that outside. That's what Stingley can be. And I don't think Pat Pete is as good at ball skills as Derek Stingley had, but he's that lockdown corner with excellent recovery speed. And that's what Stingley has, in my opinion. So that's what we got on Derek Stingley Jr. Let us know what you think about him, man. Is he CB1 still for you? Is he still a top 5 prospect in this class? I know a lot of people are kind of downing him right now with his injuries, kind of dropping him on the big board. But let us know what you think about Derek Stingley Jr. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boomer Bust Draft. Rate us 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever. And of course, comment below what you guys want to see us do next. What kind of video, what prospect do you want to see us cover more in depth? Please comment below. So for Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.